As most of us know, Pokemon Generation 8 is most likely going to be what we're going to be seeing next on the Pokemon Switch. I mean, based on the fact that the next game is going to be in a brand new console, it would make sense to leave Generation 7 behind and move on to the next thing. And so far, looking on everything we have in front of us, that seems to be the actual deal. We seem to be done with Generation 7 being just Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. Same way with X and Y and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire being the only two games within Generation 6. So now we're moving over to a different gen, being Generation 8. And today I thought we'd take a look at some changes we need in Pokemon Generation 8 on the Switch that are direly needed. So let's talk about these. So to begin with, guys, keep in mind this list is simply in my opinion, so if you do not agree with me, let me know your list of things you want changed in Pokemon Generation 8 on the Switch in the comment section down below. But let's start with one thing first of all, and that is reduced cutscenes. Now, the biggest issue with Sun and Moon was the overabundance and overusage of specifically cutscenes. They literally ruined the fun and the gameplay of those games. I hated Sun and Moon for the cutscenes. They were so boring and dull. They didn't add anything to the gameplay. They simply just took up time giving you exposition and story when you could have explored that on your own. I preferred something like in Fire Red Leaf Green where I could simply go and, if I want to learn a mystery about the game or something story related, I talk to a character and I just go through a bunch of text and I read that and there you go, you know what I mean? I'm not forced into these situations where I have to sit through these long sessions of just looking at, characters just going back and forth in these animations. They don't really add much. I mean, it's a story, yeah, sure, but it doesn't, really make me want to replay that. I don't have a reason to go back and see all that again, while I've been able to replay something like Fire Red so many times now, and still, there are things that I have missed in those games as well. Still characters I want to talk to and areas I want to check out. For example, the mansion with the Mew and the Mewtwo journals and stuff like that. That stuff is awesome. You go through them, you look through, it's like these really creepy old things that you didn't really know much about, and you look into them and like, what are these about? What are these stories? What are these Pokemon? All that stuff, right? It's just a really nice touch. But Sun and Moon don't feel the same way there. They're done in such a way that they force you into these cutscenes that really don't add much value to the gameplay and just take you out of the experience almost, and just reduce the kind of well-paced other parts that work in the game, like when you actually go around doing actual gameplay. That is, kind of ruined by the pacing being messed up in the game because of the cutscenes. But I digress. If you like cutscenes in Pokemon, that's your choice. They could be implemented well, but they shouldn't be overused like they were in Sun and Moon. Full character customization. This is something that I think a lot of people would love. Like, seriously, it's either like full customization or no customization. Now, I'm personally one of those people who prefer if all the characters were just like the same, in a sense, but that also would kind of ruin the fun of creating your own journey and being your own character. But then again, that's just me being, kind of stuck in the olden days of having a silent protagonist, aka Red, aka, Brendan, aka, Ethan and that sort of stuff. Like those sort of characters, I can easily relate to those characters because they aren't me, but I can understand like what they're doing and I can play as those characters and see their journey almost, and that's kind of awesome. But now in Pokemon, we're going over more to a thing where basically you are the character, you are the one that you're playing as, you're making your own image, within Pokemon, you're creating yourself. And if they're gonna do that, at least allow us full customization. I mean, at least allow us to make our characters exactly how we want them to be in every sort of, way, like in every possible way, make us able to do that. And also perhaps add in old characters' outfits. For example, if I want to look like Red, allow me to do that and allow me to look like Red. If I want to look like, I don't know, Ethan or Brendan or whatever, let me look like that. Or if it's, if you're a female, let them look like Lyra, whatever. Like, just allow us to do a lot of that, because it'll be pretty awesome. And give us outfits by, maybe completing tasks, or maybe do like a DLC where you include every single outfit from all the previous games, from all the main characters, and it's like a $4 or a $3 freaking DLC or whatever that we can all pick up and like, hey, look at that. Or maybe, don't even make it a DLC, just make it something like, let us, complete a Hoenn Pokedex or, a Kanto Pokedex or whatever to actually get those, outfits, so to say. That would be really awesome. Like, I genuinely would want to see something like that. Better mini-games. Now, this is something I think most people would actually appreciate, because honestly, I haven't been able to play a mini-game, or whatever you want to call them, in a Pokemon game for a long time. I mean, ever since kind of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, that was the last time I actually got to experience kind of like that sort of thing, you know, a mini-game, or like just a side task that you can do within the game that is actually fun. The Sun and Moon side tasks or mini-games were very insufficient and kind of boring. Like, the best one I could have seen that actually was, you know, fun for only a little bit of time was Mantine Surf. Everything else within the game was kind of lackluster, actually really lackluster and very boring. It really wasn't that much fun. And keep in mind, Mantine Surf wasn't even in Sun and Moon, but in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you know what I mean? So, in all honesty, Gen 7 really didn't bring much to the table in those areas, and it's very disappointing because the thing that made Pokemon so great in the past was all those mini-games and extra things you got to do. I can't even imagine how many hours I must have spent doing, you know, all these side things within Pokemon back in the day, you know what I mean? And that's also what kept you so engaged, because you weren't just doing the, you know, repetitive story back and forth cutscene thing. Instead, you were going around doing different things. You were even more open in the past than you are right now with Pokemon. With Sun and Moon, you were very closed in. You couldn't really do much, but back in the day you were slightly more open actually with where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do, and all that stuff. And also when it comes to mini games, you had more options. There were so many more fun, enjoyable, and creative mini games that we saw, and I really do hope that they put out their creative bone when they're going to be working on this Switch game, you know, in Generation 8, and actually give us some mini games that are enjoyable and fun, because side tasks in Pokemon are actually really fun and enjoyable. I don't know about you guys, but I do want to see some better mini-games in Pokemon Generation 8. Give us more new Pokemon. Now, in Gen 7, we were not given enough new ones. We didn't get enough new Pokemon, nor did we get any Mega Evolutions, nor did we get any new evolutions or pre-evolutions or any of that stuff. We literally got just, you know, the Alola forms, which I think were the most awesome part about, you know, Sun and Moon. And then we got Z moves, you know, which weren't even Pokemon and stuff. They were simply just like this gimmick that was kind of boring in all honesty. But I do want to see more Pokemon. That's one thing I want to point out. More Pokemon is definitely necessary. Sun and Moon didn't offer enough. I mean, they had new Pokemon, but just it didn't feel enough. I feel like they could have done more. And hopefully with this Generation 8 game, or, you know, Pokemon on the Switch, they'll be able to bring us way more, like way more stuff to actually take a look at. I would love to be able to, you know, go catch another 150 Pokemon or whatever. That would be freaking fantastic. Imagine all the possibilities, all the things, you know, all the new fan favorites, all the different combinations in competitive and all that stuff. Like, there's so many possibilities right there with that. So I want to see if it's a possibility that we could see something like that happen. But I digress. Let me know your opinions on that, guys. Do you want to see more Pokemon, or are you fine with just there being a few each region or each, you know, generation? Let me know. Either way, let's go to the next one. Have Mega Evolutions return, or give us an alternative to Megas that is not Z-moves, because Z-moves were kind of lame. So perhaps having Megas return, or something similar to them, would be pretty awesome, because I just didn't have like an easy time warming up to Mega Evolutions when I first saw them, but over time, as soon as actually Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire came out, I was actually like, oh boy, okay, I love Megas, because they actually introduced Mega Sceptile and stuff, and I mean, that was one of my favorite Pokemon, so I was like, yes, this is actually something I really wanted. Hence why I'm mentioning it now as well. I would love to see them actually add in something like that. I mean, give us Mega Evolutions back. Like, we haven't seen them now for 2 games. It would be nice to see them return, and don't give us a bunch of them, just give us a few, just so we can all be happy. And, you know, with the previous point I made about new Pokemon, if you give us enough new Pokemon and just give attention to some older ones, you know, from like maybe Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen, you know, Gen whatever, like if you give some of those Pokemon Mega Evolutions and give them some extra attention, then we would be totally fine, you know, not having any sort of alternatives like, you know, Alola forms or regional variants, whatever you want to call them, you know what I mean? Be fine with just a few Megas and a bunch of new Pokemon, because then at least the previous ones are still getting some attention, but also these new ones are center stage. But if we don't get Mega Evolutions, I do hope we get some sort of gimmick that's better than the Z-moves, because Z-moves were kind of pointless. They were pretty boring. Like, there wasn't really much to them that really made them special, and that's the biggest issue. When you try to make everything special, which is what they try to do with Z-moves, like, because, you know, giving individual Pokemon attention and giving them these Mega Evolutions. You know, I can understand that that kind of like, you know, maybe unfair to other options and that sort of stuff, and other people's fan favorites and that sort of stuff. But here's the thing, right? When you try to make everything special, nothing is special anymore. And that's the thing with Z-moves. Z-moves could have been so cool and actually really interesting if they didn't give it to every bloody Pokemon. And that's where the issue lies. Giving it to so many different Pokemon, it actually removes the joy from using Z-moves, or it actually just removes the joy of even having them. They just seem very lackluster and kind of boring in a sense, because everybody has them. They're not special in any way whatsoever, because every Pokemon can essentially use them. It's kind of pointless at that point. You don't really, you know, have a reason to use them. Hence why I'm mentioning it. But then again, I digress. If you like Z-moves, you like Z-moves, that is totally fine. But I will say that Z-moves for me weren't special whatsoever, but Megas were. Megas were this special thing that we haven't seen in a while, and seeing them return would be pretty nice. Fix Mythical Pokemon. I feel like most people can agree that a big issue that we have currently with Mythical Pokemon is that they simply just don't offer anything. They are so pointless, they are so worthless almost, in a sense, that it's actually kind of ridiculous. I mean, think about it. We don't have to do anything, you know, out of the ordinary, or anything, you know, special, or anything challenging to actually receive Mythical Pokemon. You simply get a QR code from a distribution center, or just, you know, GameStop or whatever, and then you just simply enter it into your game, or, you know, you just QR, you know, scan it into your game, and that's it. That's literally it. There is no challenge to that. I really hope that with the upcoming games, that they will remove that option. That QR code, just, you know, getting Pokemon through QR codes won't be a thing, especially Mythical Pokemon. I really do hope they remove that, because honestly, my biggest issue with Ultra Sun and Moon is the current, like, legendary distribution. Why would you be giving out all these legendary Pokemon, these legendary beasts, right? They're supposed to be legendary. They shouldn't be received, you know, and given out to people just handed out like they're nothing. Like, why would you do that? I get that, like, you know, it's the final game of the 3DS and you want to go out with a boom and whatever, but still, that doesn't justify to just be putting out a bunch of these, like, legendaries just randomly, like, hey, take one here, you know what I mean? You can already catch most legendaries already within the games, you know, with Ultra Sun and Moon. You can actually go catch them already. Why would you then need to actually also, on top of that, get another one for free by, you know, free distribution of legendaries? And this goes also back to Mythicals. Why should Mythicals only be available through QR codes and as mystery gifts? Please remove that whole concept. Like, instead of doing that, how about you actually add in, like, Zeraora or Marshadow or whatever, or any of the, you know, many Mythicals that exist, or maybe the new Mythicals that we'll see in, you know, the next generation. Actually put them in the world in certain areas that are hard to reach. Make it like a place that's very hard to get to, where we have to do specific combinations of things, like, you know what I mean? Like, let us, for example, one good example that I really like for which Pokemon I really love to receive that are very different is, like, the Regis. The Regis are very special. You have to do these crazy puzzles to actually get to them. That's something I would love to see in specifically the next Pokemon game. We have to do some specific combinations of things to actually get yourself these Pokemon. Like, let us do work to receive them. Let us earn them, because honestly, I can tell you from experience that when you earn something, you appreciate it and you like it way more than when you're handed it. Like, when people hand you money, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you were handed money your whole life, you wouldn't really value money as much as if you were to earn your money. So that's kind of the point I want to make. Like, you want to actually earn these things. Why would you just, you know, want free, you know, Mythicals for no reason? I mean, I know some people love that. Some people want it. Like, hey, fair enough. If you don't want to, you know, actually work for the stuff you get in Pokemon, sure. But I am personally a person who thinks that you should work to earn the Pokemon, the Mythicals within the games. You know, you should actually put in some effort to get them. That's where I feel like the fun comes out. Because it's a big issue with Pokemon recently. You don't work to get what you know, you think you deserve. Like, you don't actually work for it. You just simply just get it. You're handed it to you. Same thing with the story and the gameplay. You're no longer challenged to try to figure out where you're supposed to go and read the story and that sort of stuff and actually figure out and talk to a bunch of people to figure out where to go. No, instead you're just simply, you know, having a little bit of a red arrow or a little red flag or whatever showing you where to go in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. It simply tells you exactly where to go and what to do, and everything that consists in those games in Gen 7 is simply cutscenes. It's nothing more than just cutscenes, and that's a huge problem in my honest opinion. I feel like we should improve that and not simply have mythical Pokemons being these, you know, throwaway codes that you receive and these things that are simply used to promote movies, which is literally what they're used for, just to promote movies. Do something more with them. Why throw away a Pokemon just for that? Do something special with them within the games. Like, do something actually viable and fun and challenging for us to receive them, instead of simply just making them codes that we actually just, you know, scan into our games. It's very boring if they keep doing it that way. Like, do something more fun with it, in all honesty. Either way, let's go to the next one. So because this video is going for quite a long time, I'm going to cram the last 3 points into one. So the first one is, allow us to explore the world more open, as well as gyms returning, and improved post-game beyond simply having a tacked on story that doesn't really add much. So let's talk about that. So allow us to explore the world more in open and open it up. By giving us something like a questing system, for example, it may be a way better way to explore the game's story and the world by simply choosing where you want to go. You know, choosing which order you want to tackle the world, which gym do you want to take on first, and that sort of stuff. And with gyms perhaps returning, with a gym leader system changed to fit an open world, the system could kind of scale towards what level your Pokemon are, or maybe even give the character a level, and then the enemy will also, you know, scale their level to the characters. Something like that would be very fun, and instead of just having this, you know, giant story that's very linear, and you have to follow it exactly how it is, instead you'd be able to explore the world in your own pace, do quests to discover the story, and just maybe have like this overarching story that's kind of following you throughout the whole game, but like the quests are kind of the thing that you want to mostly focus on, and through the quests you're able to follow this general big story, right? Then again, this is very unlikely to happen, but I would want to see that. But one thing that must happen though is improved post-game beyond simply a tacked on story that doesn't add much to the actual story and help it. This is something that I think really needs to happen. Having the games on the Switch allows for so many possibilities, things that I feel like could be better post-game. Give us more features there. Like, actually give us more features in the post-game and things to do than simply just tacking on this random story element and just giving us things that we don't really, you know, find useful, like aka Sun and Moon. Just add so many useless things that we didn't really, you know, have any use for. Give us things that we'll actually use, the Battle Frontier and stuff like that. I mean, give us actual things to do instead of just tacking on something we don't need. That's what I want to say, but I digress. These are all my opinions, guys. If you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments down below what your opinions are on all this stuff and what you would want to see. And either way, thank you so much for watching. My name has been Waffle Rallets. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.